Hey, it's Amanda, and you are watching a segment from 100 videos in 100 days. This started out as a challenge to myself to prove that freedom can come from authenticity and vulnerability, and that life doesn't have to be perfect or look perfect, it doesn't have to feel perfect to be valuable, to really be valuable. And that you don't have to wait to share your gifts till it all looks a certain way. And this is also about what the cost is of waiting to share your gifts. I didn't have a YouTube channel before this. I never did a video of myself. I didn't even like to see myself in camera. So am I scared every time I do this? Yes. But I'm here. I'm showing up, because I'm committed to this conversation about freedom. And the freer I get, I believe the freer you will get. So I invite you to participate as you can. There's no editing here. I get one take. So if it all goes to hell, you go with me. There may be swearing, there may be crying. I may get up and walk around. It's the game. It's authentic and vulnerable. I will look different every day. So that's really the point of it, is in life there's no editing, there's no redos. So who are you going to be? How are you going to show up? What would that look like? And what would be possible if you just showed up exactly as you were and let the cards fall? Would that be freeing? It is to me. And if it is to you, I hope you get something out of these. If there's anything that I say that rubs you wrong or feels off, discard it immediately. It's not for you. It's for whoever needs it, and most likely for me. So when this turns off and the next one turns on, I will be sitting here quietly with my eyes closed. You're not walking into any special session that you're not supposed to see. Everything's transparent here. So I started this to have context in the beginning, because I can see people are jumping in the middle of the series, and I just want to make sure everyone feels included. So I will see you soon. I don't have a real reason for being on here today. Last week I kept thinking I would. I had maybe a few things to share, and then I've had a crazy phone for a week that doesn't really work. I had a garage flood. My daughter's in a car accident and they totaled the car, so that got her signed up for school, and a lot of unusual circumstances last week, which were fun to watch. They were. I don't know how to explain them, but they were. So I guess I just thought I would share what's been going on with me. I don't even know when I was on here last. I guess it's been a couple weeks. I just know I don't necessarily have a plan for this. I know I started out with 100 days, and I'm so grateful I did not do that. It would have put me in a really, I feel that it would have put me in a very uncomfortable place, because the more that this deepens in me, so much of what I said doesn't apply. It doesn't mean I wasn't telling the truth. It's just the more this deepens, almost anything that you hear in life, that you're taught, that you're raised to believe, it's all absolutely untrue. So there's been a mourning about that, about living a life even the way I taught my kids, and I taught them in more unusual fashion. I think I taught them a lot of the things I'm experiencing now because I believed they were true. I had enough glimpses of it, but it also wasn't a consistent knowing. It wasn't a consistent, it's not knowing, it's being. So I've been very quiet. I've posted here and there on Facebook. Mostly I've been very quiet. At home, anywhere. Gone shopping with my girls and they just keep looking like, you okay? You okay? Sure you okay? Because nothing comes out when they're here at the house. Mom, you okay? You okay? Last week I think it was. So I guess as this has been unfolding, you know, I started these videos to find freedom because I did believe that you could find it through vulnerability and authenticity. And I still think that's one way to crack this open. I didn't expect what has turned out, but maybe that's how it works. Because you can't go looking for it. You can't make it a goal. But I was so confronted with my ego and all the things I was learned and all the things I believed were true and all the things that I wanted to accomplish, and everything just kept colliding and colliding and colliding. And because I was committed to this and seeing it out and finding that freedom that I, in my gut, knew was there, I found. It just doesn't look anything like what you think it will. It's so much better. There's a profound peace that can't be taken away. There's joy in everything. Even if something looks terrible, I mean, I'm in the garage and it's flooded, and my daughter's car's totaled, well, it was my car. My phone is glitching, I can't get anything to go right, I have to pay out this money. And I could only experience the beauty of it. Like the absolute perfection of it. And I'm sure that sounds airy-fairy nonsense. Well, I'm not trying to sell you anything, so I don't care if you don't believe me. You know, my daughter's struggling a couple weeks ago, and I said, well, did you try this or that? And she said, I'm not doing those things. I'm not saying those things. I will look crazy. And I smiled and I said, and I will do those all day outside in public forever, because I officially know I'm not crazy. Everybody else is crazy because they believe their thoughts and their feelings. I've never felt so sane. I've never felt so present in my body, full of love for myself and anything else that comes up. It doesn't mean I don't have maybe anger or sadness, but they're so fleeting. And when I do have them, I drop right into them, and they, well, can't get them to stay, but they're felt in a beautiful way. And I think that's because, you know, I ran from my feelings my whole life, because you think you can never get out of them. If you sink in, you'll never get out, right? That's what the mind tells you. This will last forever. Don't go there, don't feel that, and it tries to distract you, and with addictions and new projects, new ideas, pain in the body, whatever it has to do. So we walk around with these false senses of what emotions feel like. I was talking to my mom the other day about feelings, and then my girls, and he said, I want people to understand, when I say feel your feelings, people go, but I am. And if they're crying and they've got all this commotion going on, I know they're not feeling them. They're feeling the counterfeit feeling and the resistance of it. So it's so much scarier. When I mean feel your feeling, I mean it as simple as see a color, feel a texture, taste or a flavor, as if it's a sense. You know, if you just taste lemon purely, you may like it or not, but you don't have this giant reaction to it if you just take it in and don't let all the story about a lemon or chocolate or watermelon or steak or whatever come with it. You just take in the experience of it. Same with the color. You may like one color more than the other, but you never give up a color just to always have this one color forever. You want the full spectrum. What happens though is when you're willing to have the full spectrum at all times, what you end up having is joy, wholeness, love, gratitude, a sense of beauty you can't get anywhere else. So everyone's telling you to chase happiness, and I've been saying don't do it, because if you chase happiness, it blinds you from the fact that you are that. Anything you chase, if you chase success, it blinds you to the fact that you are successful. Your being is that. You are all of it. You are the rainbow. What you want to look at is detaching from unhappiness, and then happiness can show up. So it's removing everything that you're not. Remember? And then the natural currents will come up. So when I feel sadness, it feels much more like love. Anger feels amazing. It feels like power, but it's, it's a heat. And there's a little bit of excitement. It's its own color, it's its own flavor, it's its own blend of something. And that all comes from fear anyway. But when I've gotten angry, I immediately drop. If I feel pain in my body, I sink into it and it's gone. I've had several, little things come up. Like I'll get a pain in my foot that feels like my arch is just falling. I mean, it hurts so bad I can hardly walk. And I sink into it. It goes. It's there to be felt. The other thing I do is sometimes all of a sudden get a pain under my rib or in my neck, just out of the blue, and it's so sharp you can't pretend it's not there. You all of a sudden grab your neck like, oh my God, ah! And so I will look to what I was thinking immediately before that hit. Because usually what happens is your mind's just filtering, because you're always in past or future instead of present. And when you're in the past, it's just skimming over things, and and it's thousands of things a second. It's this fast, and you'll have passed over something. And if there's something to feel in your body to heal it, so it can release, the mind doesn't want you to feel the feeling, so it creates pain. You get a spasm. You just start sneezing. I mean, it's crazy. And so I'll go in and I'll sit there and go, oh my gosh, what was I thinking? And it'll take a minute, but then I'll go, oh my gosh, yeah, I was thinking about that one time, and it was only for a second. And then I'll sit and I'll feel what that felt like, and then the pain goes. So really, they're just things still popping up that never got felt. And for me, it's exciting, because every time it pops up, I'm excited because I know there's one more thing leaving. What's also been interesting about this experience is, these are things I've read about, and they happened to people, and it seemed to be when they were in a depressed state, suicidal state, and then something happened, and they could see their thoughts for what they were, and they could see their being, and I don't know, it's like this big boom hit, and then they pop back out of it, and then they have to reintegrate it. If they don't reintegrate it, they can become suicidal, and they can go into deep depression, because the ego will pop up and it tries to grab back for that bliss, that serenity feeling. And I think because mine occurred so differently, because I was doing the videos and I was so focused on this, and when I wasn't doing this, I was writing and I was going after every angle that I see the ego so that I could share it. I just didn't know I was dismantling it at the same time. I thought I was getting clues to help people. And so then it's hard to wrap your mind around that that same thing could be happening too, because I wasn't going to get struck by lightning. I, wasn't suicidal. But a combination of everything I was doing, plus probably the truth in me that's always been there, just started to click, and it started to feel like it's like a rumbling of a building, because the ego is only attached to form. It's attached to your body. It's attached to things around you. It's attached to thoughts. Thoughts are a form. So anything it can grab onto to make the structure feel stronger and bigger and more powerful, it will grab onto it. So when you chase after people and things and goals, and even the way your body looks or feels, you will always end up suffering, because you're adding on to an ego and you're making it stronger. Even though the world's telling you you're doing a great thing, well, listen to who's talking. The biggest ego of all. It's the collective. So if you listen there and not to your intuitive self, your gut, your heart, you're going to keep chasing after this stuff, and you really want to do the exact opposite of what you're taught by society. I cannot stress that enough. Almost every single thing your mind tells you to do the opposite. I've got this great plan. No, thank you. And I also think learning to feel my feelings for the first time is what unlocked it, because I was feeling the interpretation of feelings, or I was resisting them. The resistance is what causes all the suffering in this world. It's the resistance to the situation and to the feelings. That's it. That's what causes suffering. On the flip side, the suffering is what burns up the ego. So that's why the second we're born and we start learning all this stuff that we really need to unlearn, it's there to keep us feeling separate, so we can have a separate experience to share with the collective. But when it gets disproportionate, we get lost into it, and then we forget that we're not the ego. And that's how we get wars and fights and people standing off and against each other. They forget they're part of the whole and just here to have a singular experience to bring back to the whole. I mean, one person can only know so many things. If we're all here to participate and then bring it back to the whole as a collective, then that's what there is. That's why we feel separate. So the ego gives us those feelings of sadness, distance, lonely, whatever, and it creates that veil that keeps us feeling separate. As the ego drops, that becomes so much more transparent that it becomes a little spooky at first. Last week, I had about a week of sitting in that where I felt like that veil was so thin, and I wasn't thinking of it as a veil, but I very much felt like I was someplace else. I think I barely talked that week, and I think I just mostly sat and had tears running down my face. And I had to do a few things to help people, and they felt utterly bizarre. I cried when people spoke because it seemed like magic. I saw that everything in existence is for me. Everything. There's not one thing, and I don't care how you label it, it's for me. And if it's you talking, it's for you. It's not, oh, we're here to learn a lesson, or, yeah, well, it gave you what you needed or what you deserved. No, it's giving it to you for love, from love. You are life. You can't be separate from it. So it's only going to give you what's best for you, because that's what's best for it. It's not going to, we believe in these karmic things like if you do bad, you're going to get bad. And that's just all still made up. So to have that kind of experience where there wasn't anything I ate or touched or someone I spoke to that I didn't feel just enveloped in love, and like everything was here to be of service to me. I also had some strange things, and these keep popping up, where I realize we can only ever talk about the past, ever, because we have no language for now. And I think that's on purpose, because when we're present, we're in being, and that's what we are. We are love, we're presence. That's what transforms. There's no language that transforms anything. It's what we use to try and describe it, but it's the being. So you don't have to come up with some human thing to say. And presence and being and suffering. But because we can only talk about anything in the past, because we only have language for it, I mean, it may have just happened, we start talking about it, but several times I've been listening to people talk about the past. I mean, something happened 3 minutes before, and I feel confused. I'm like, why are we talking about the past? That's so long ago. I mean, it feels confusing. They're telling me about something, and I'm like, I know, but that just happened. So it's not happening now. I don't understand. So it's strange, because I'm having some confused moments about things that would have seemed very normal 2 months ago. When people complain, I want to hug them, because complaining is the same as self-mutilation. Those kids that cut, complaining is the same. It's trying to release that tension in your body. The problem is it's building the structure bigger and bigger and bigger. And then you want to go find people that will agree with you and make it bigger and bigger, and you become so blind. You can't see or feel yourself anymore. I mean, if there's probably the most dangerous addiction is complaining and gossip. So if there's somewhere to start, give it up and stay away from it. So yeah, I had about a week of just being in what felt like another world, where I could see the absolute perfection of everything. I could see the black, the white, the good, the bad, all the stuff, but it was all perfect. It was all designed exactly right. There's not a moment in your life that doesn't have the counterpart in existence. So you can think you're screwing this up, but you're not. And you can think that you can fail, but you can't, because it's done in perfection. It's done from love. It's done so that we can experience, we can feel. We can't outside of these bodies. It doesn't work that way. And so for me to see this, it was just the most beautiful thing, because we're here to create our own hero story. I mean, if you notice, some days you're the hero, some days you're the victim, some days you're the one that's been captured, some days you're the one that gets to save. I mean, we're all living in our own Game of Thrones or Star Wars or whatever. I mean, that's why these movies are so amazing yet relatable, because everybody gets to play a role in there. And some days we're the villain, and some days we're the good guy, but we get to play all the roles, and we do play them all. So that's what's beautiful. I mean, it just looks like this beautiful tapestry of everybody getting to be all these things and to experience it. And one thing I thought was really interesting is about, when I've talked about suffering, don't run from it. If you can be conscious and go into suffering, you'll do what I've done. I didn't know it can work that way. I just thought you had to have something pop open. Well, I cracked it open by staying in the suffering, but being present and just not resisting it. Because the greatest power on this planet, some will say it's love, it's not resisting. Don't resist. And I mean, don't resist anything. Sink into it. If someone's arguing with you, do not argue back. Just go blank. Just be there to listen, to mirror what they are saying. Their argument will dissolve. In fact, they'll feel love because you've disappeared, and they can see themselves, but they'll think that you saw them. If you argue or defend, your ego will grow exponentially and you will suffer. Don't defend. You will never be able to give me a good enough reason to defend something, because you'll lose. Don't defend, and what you think you have to fight over will just go away on its own, and then your ego won't trap you inside. going to say something else. You know, going forward, I was supposed to go to the seminar again, the follow-up seminar, and I had to cancel because I realized whatever's going on is just exponentially growing, and so a lot of the things I learned there, while they helped kick this off for me, they don't apply. And it doesn't feel lonely. I don't feel lonely, even though I know that most of the conversation I could have with someone, they would probably be irritated. So I don't feel the need to force what's going on with me or how this works on anyone, because you can't fail anyway. And you'll transform and become awareness. Awareness replaces thoughts. So then, when you're aware, your thoughts then work for you. When your thoughts are in charge, you may sense awareness, but your thoughts are still running things. That's how it works. So it just basically inverts. But awareness doesn't set goals. It doesn't have an agenda. It doesn't have motives. So when my mind starts to go, well, gosh, our bank account, we need to do this, I can't go where it goes anymore. Because I don't believe it. I don't know how to believe it anymore. It tries to tell me last week I had a cold. I could feel a few things like a cold, but it couldn't land. It's like, I know you're telling me I'm cold. I know I coughed, but I can't embrace the cold because I don't believe it. I don't believe that money is an emergency, and it doesn't matter where my bank account is, because it's the one creating the problem, because the universe will show up to handle whatever needs to be handled. If I need it, it will show up. The problem is we walk around as humans like either we want something or we think we need it. If you need it, you will have it. That's what love does. If you don't need it, you won't have it. And if you don't have it right now, you don't need it. Your ego is just trying to prepare you like life insurance. Like, well, we better plan for all these emergencies. Consider that it's taken care of. I mean, what if you lived a life where you believed it was taken care of? And you just moved forward and you went to your job and you're great with people, or you changed jobs, or you wandered the earth and let people serve you and you serve them. You would be taken care of. If you do things with a motive, if you do it with a goal at the end, and it doesn't matter if it's a good goal. If you're like, well, I want to make a difference. I want to help all these people that are hurting. Remember, you then need people that hurt to help you fulfill a purpose. If you need people to save, you need people in a lower place that you can save. If you want to lead, you need followers. So I think the ego that looks for the problem has that arise up. If you knew everything was handled, I don't know that the universe would keep providing issues. What would be the point? And another thing, too, that I saw in that last week when I was, wherever I was, I feel like it was heaven, is that the reason you can't fail is because no matter what you are or what you do or how you do it, you are of service to this planet. You can be in your room for your whole life. You can shut the door. You can be sick. You can be terrified. It doesn't matter what it is. The fact that you're here gives people something to bump off of. It gives them something to have a point of view of. It has them either be able to give you service, to think about a way that they would want to live differently, maybe ways to help you, just something to complain about. It doesn't matter, because we're here to have experiences. So if there's a homeless man laying on the street and no one ever helps him, and he can't have failed, because our thoughts will create the emotions that we have about that man. He was of service. You can't fail. Goals, dreams, a lot of effort, achievements, it's your ego. When you get really fit, it's your ego. If there are things that come from movement, once you're awake inside, then your outside will just start to match. If you try and get it to do it out here first and then bring it in, it won't work, because there's motive in there, and you'll get wrapped into it. And because you have a lot of agreement about doing those things, it doesn't mean that you stop living or you stop moving. I haven't, but I've noticed I do different things. I say different things. I have different tastes in things suddenly. I say things differently. I choose different music, different clothing, different styles. Things sound differently to me. People look different. So, and I mean, I don't know how far this goes, how deep it goes. But you know, it relieves the pressure of having to be this superhero to save the world in everything you do. Or I have to do this thing and I have to make all this money. If you do something, do it for the sake of doing it, and that's it. All these goals of who I'm going to be, and I get to say, and I'm in charge, and I'm going to create my life, and I'm going to do. That is the ego. It just is. Unless you're all lit inside, it's ego. You know, my mind will try and throw out business ideas, or even with the book, and if it's anything other than just typing and it flowing out, I cannot use it. It's not true. And it feels disgusting, it feels creepy. And there's a purpose for that. I know one thing I was going to say is I talked a long time ago about going towards depression, going towards suffering, going towards the dark, and not listening to everyone and running to the light. And you know, I don't even know where I was getting all this stuff, other than it's just what was coming out. And I was watching a show on religions, or maybe spirituality, but it was old customs and things that the older religions used to do that really looked at the being, and the rest was irrelevant. But they used to have caves, these little small caves, and I think you got approved for it, or whatever the case may be. But you would go into one of these caves, and it was pitch black in there, and you went in there until your inner light would light it, because then you know who you were. All the dark was gone, and you could see there actually wasn't dark. Your light was just dimmed. And that's what they used to do it, and it was a rite of passage. It was a sacred journey. Anyway, it was this rite of passage and this sacred journey, and they went in there, and they could be there for a long time, and those little caves are still there. But it made me cry, because I thought, that's right. I mean, I knew, I don't know how I knew, other than the fact that anyone I'd ever studied was in that place, and then something cracked open, and the fact, and more than anything, we go to these seminars that try and get us to be happy and positive and stuff, and yet all of our profound moments come from those dark places, that sadness, that loneliness, the longing, got a hurricane going on down there. That's where the connections are going to happen. It's not in play and happiness. We get dumb in there. And it's not about growing. You know, a lot of people are like, we have to be in pain to grow. No, you're going to be in pain to burn up the ego. Growing, striving, to get more knowledge, to expand, that's ego. Truly, almost everything you've ever heard is completely inaccurate. So where does that leave me? I feel like that leaves me as a woman with no future. Every time I try and picture something, I got nothing. Here's the best part. You know, they teach you to, in seminars and stuff, like, you imagine, way out in the future what it would look like, or, diagram your life backwards and start with, you have all these things, and how did you get there? And that's just total nonsense. It's just a fun game for the ego. It is fun. I mean, for a minute to feel like you could have all those things, but you're not in charge. You have no control. And the resistance of that is what causes suffering. The ego wants to be in charge, and the soul knows it's along for the ride. So we go to these seminars and we try and create in there. But what I always found odd was, if my mind can imagine it, it's from my mind. What if I got out of the way and let the world show me where it was for me to go, or what there was for me to do? I have a feeling that a universe and a world that loves me the way that it does could show me more than I could ever imagine from this small ego mind. If you feel like you need money, get out of the way of the money. Let life give you what you need. It will. You don't have to figure it out. You don't have to figure out a relationship. If you're not in one, you don't need it right now. If you're not super well, you just don't need it right now. There may be a purpose that you're not out running around causing trouble. You know, the world may have been saved because I was on that couch for so long, because I was a damage-making machine. It's all in perfect order, and you'll start to see these things when you see them. And the best thing that you can do is just start to look for what's your ego and check inside and feel your feelings. When you learn to feel them, and you see that just the feeling that without your mind involved, you start to become healthier, you feel better, you feel lighter, you feel like you want to play, you feel like you want to try again. That what it's saying isn't so true. And then you start to see how untrue it is. And then it can get wonky, it can get scary. But it will start assimilating again. And then another level drop. Like I said, I felt like it was kind of creaking, maybe some sledgehammering going on, maybe a floor dropped. And then this last 2 weeks, I'd say I felt like they went with a demolition or whatever. When that building just drops, like in Vegas, that's what this is feeling like. And then I sit with that, and I may wander, I may not talk, but I don't try and force it, because I know it's the ego just throwing a fit. I just don't experience it the same way. It's not terrifying me. It's very different though. So I mean, if there was a price that you pay, it's losing your identity. But do you really want the one you have? If you could have the one that the universe knows is absolutely perfect for you, and it loves you more than anything because you are it, I mean, it's going to give you everything you need. Why wouldn't it? When a mother gives its child everything it needed, of course. It's just that we've learned to put faith in the ego. But when you realize it only gives you a perception of separateness so that you can have that interaction with another human being, so that you can feel feelings. You experience who you are through other people. I mean, I know I learn by listening to my gut, and I learn who I am and what I'm not, but I learn so much more now. Like when I go meet with people, when they talk, I realize what they're saying isn't necessarily about me, but it's for me, and I get to see something in a new way that I could never have seen, and it just feels like they're here giving me all these clues and these special notes. And then now when I write, I really just have hours where I just sit and it just pours out, and it goes to these deep places that I never considered to write about. But it's just the most amazing experience I've ever had. I feel no need to go preach it. No one has to do what I say. I don't have a right. I mean, I just don't have that need of it. I don't need people to follow me. If people want to come see me because they feel like I can make a difference, I'm okay with that. Am I a life coach? No, and I knew I never was. I'm life. And the way I experience of that is just feeling like a conduit of source and service. And whatever the world needs me to do, if that's just babysit children, if that's draw pretty pictures, if that's going and sitting with sick people, homeless people, sad people, confused people, making dinners, it doesn't matter. It's not my business. It's not my job to figure it out. And I know I'll just be doing it. So there does seem, it's not stress, I don't experience that. I can't even relate to depression hardly anymore, so I'm glad I made the videos and was writing so that I can remember why I felt that. Because it seems like my past is just falling away quickly. My kids keep asking me all these questions, like, remember this, remember that? I'm like, nope. And I'm known for knowing details, people, places, things. I mean, I can, nope, I have no idea. I'm just right here, right now. This is what there is for me to do. Anything else is none of my business anymore. I don't know if this made a difference for anyone. I just thought I would share. And I think I'll continue to share as I find it dropping off more, or how that changes what I'm doing. I'm still writing. I find myself drawing a lot now in a way I never did before, because I wouldn't let anyone teach me other than what I knew. But I see how relearning the correct principles of things enables me a lot more freedom that my ego wouldn't let me do before. So that's pretty cool. And then really I just walk through stores and smile and beam at people, and they come up and talk to me, and I really don't say much back, and they thank me. And that's that. Feel your feelings. Know a story. Feel it like a color. Feel it like a texture. Sink in and just feel it. And this will start to separate. Don't believe the stories about your feelings. They are amazing and they are beautiful. And they're why you're here. Okay, this is long, so I'm going to go. If you guys have any questions, post them, message me, email me. You asking of me is probably what will have me show back up more. If I don't feel I'm needed, then I don't know that I don't necessarily have a drive to be here. So I guess where I feel like I'm needed and it feels appropriate, then I'll notice I'm showing up there. Okay, thanks.